This man is a top-tier shaman known as the King of Instant Death. However, at 18, he was just a boy bullied by everyone, but he possesses extraordinary talent in casting curses. A simple sword dance makes the school bully pay the price. Through this twist of fate, he becomes a shaman who profits corporations. In this world, shamans are no longer frauds, and they have clear rankings. Third-rate shamans serve individuals, offering only simple advice. Second-rate shamans serve corporations, helping them profit. First-rate shamans serve politicians, even manipulating elections, thereby gaining fame and wealth. However, once the corporations they serve go bankrupt, or the politicians fall from power, they meet terrible ends as well. The man who meets these standards is a first-rate shaman, Jeong Ji Seung. He now arrives at Yahello by helicopter. Countless corporations have established roots here. This is a place where billions can be easily earned or lost. Shaman culture thrives here. This is where the stars of the shaman world gather. Here, shamans can be seen on every street. With that, Jeong Ji Seung arrives at his destination. This is where he works. His assistant has already arranged the schedule. Jeong Ji Seung changes his clothes. He pushes open the door. Before him lies a ritual chamber. Sacrificial offerings, ritual tools, and a musical ensemble are all prepared. The goal this time is to make the rival company's stock price drop. For every 1% the stock falls, he earns 1 billion won in cash. Ji Seung marvels at the scale of this operation. Who did the rival company hire? The assistant immediately responds that it's a savage god with 50 years of experience. Rumors say the recent market crash was his doing. Ji Seung scoffs at this because the farther a savage god is from his active radius, the weaker he becomes. This means Ji Seung can completely suppress him. The music then begins. Ji Seung dances to the rhythm. He then slaughters the sacrifice. This scene makes the staff vomit. Ji Seung ignites the talisman. As water pours down, the ritual concludes. Meanwhile, the stock market opens. Everyone at the exchange exchanges bewildered looks. The stock price plummets to -10%. A man realizes his company's shaman has lost, defeated by the King of Instant Death. As expected, the shaman they hired has been sent to the hospital. Jeong Ji Seung is a professional shaman who profits corporations. Now this is the story of how he became the best in the industry. 7 years ago in Moon Village, Ji Seung and his grandmother lived in a defunct shrine. In her youth, grandmother was the most powerful shaman here and quite wealthy. But now her children have stolen all her assets. Now Ji Seung, the unwanted child, lives with only his grandmother. During Ji Seung's high school years, grandmother developed dementia. Ji Seung has been taking care of her ever since. Ji Seung prepares to leave for school. Seeing he's about to be late, he rushes out, arriving at school. His misfortune doesn't end there. Just one step away, the scene before him makes Ji Seung freeze. His desk has been covered with red bean porridge. The group that bullies him is chatting and laughing nearby. The school bully Kim Jae-hyun even casually greets him. It's the winter solstice today. I specially bought this red bean porridge for you. Ji Seung ignores him. He steps forward to clean his desk, but Kim Jae-hyun suddenly slams him onto the desk. Who told you to clean it up? Are you going to ignore your friend's kindness? Ji Seung looks up and glares at Kim Jae-hyun. This makes him flinch. To save face, he threatens Ji Seung as he leaves. Ji Seung still ignores him. He slams the door and leaves. After he's gone, the group worries if Kim Jae-hyun will be cursed, but Kim Jae-hyun sneers. Let him try. My dad is a pastor anyway. Ji Seung hears the classroom chatter clearly. Anger makes him clap, clench his fists. He won't let this slide. He has his own final resort. Ji Seung first goes to a butcher shop to buy blood sausage. Then he prints Kim Jae-hyun's photo at the library. Finally, he returns home. Grandmother thinks it's mealtime. Ji Seung says it's not time yet. From grandmother, he learns that the demolition team has already come by. Ji Seung searches through the cabinet. He finds a key. He tells grandmother they'll eat soon. They have blood sausage today. Ji Seung arrives at a room door. He unlocks it with the key. This is the ritual chamber grandmother used before. Ji Seung saw grandmother perform rituals as a child. Casting a curse requires 4 elements. First, a target. Second, a sacrifice. Third, music. Finally, ritual tools. The preparations are complete. He assumes his stance. You brought this on yourself. He shakes the bell. He swings the blade. The music reaches its climax. First, he slashes the photo. Then he chops the blood sausage. The commotion inside reaches outside. Manager Mi immediately recognizes someone is performing a ritual. Chil-gun confirms he hears it too. What puzzles Manager Mi is that the old woman here has lost her mind and couldn't possibly cast a death curse. She suspects someone else is inside. Her conclusion: only an old woman and her grandson are inside. Manager Mi orders Chil-gun to investigate by tonight whether it's really Jeong Ji Seung performing the ritual, and the condition of the cursed target. Chil-gun agrees. He then drives away. Ji Seung inside has no idea what's happening. Meanwhile, Kim Jae-hyun is casually smoking on the rooftop. Suddenly, ash burns him. He falls backward. He plummets from the building. That evening, Chil-gun reports to Manager Mi. The one performing the ritual is indeed Ji Seung. Manager Mi wonders who he cursed. It turns out to be a classmate who bullied him. Manager Mi asks about the target's condition. The answer: he fell from a building this afternoon with both legs broken. Manager Mi decides she must recruit this talented shaman. That evening, Ji Seung opens the door to find Manager Mi has come looking for him. Ji Seung is confused about visitors this late. He assumes they're here for grandmother. But Manager Mi says she's looking for Ji Seung. Ji Seung finds this baffling. The two whisper in front of him, then they hand him money. Ji Seung thinks they're here to show off their wealth. He tries to dismiss them, but Manager Mi grabs him. Manager Mi wants to buy an hour of his time at 20 times minimum wage. They sit outside a convenience store. Manager Mi complains there's no coffee shop on the street, which makes Ji Seung not know whether to laugh or cry. He accepts the soda. So why are you buying my time? Unexpectedly, Manager Mi states outright that Jisung cast a death curse today. She informs him of Kim Jae-hyun's condition. Hearing this, Jisung nervously defends himself. He hysterically protests that Kim Jae-hyun was at fault first. Manager Mi doesn't care about that. She's not interested in these matters. What she wants is Jisung's talent. Jisung doesn't want trouble, so he refuses Manager Mi's proposal. Hearing this, Manager Mi covers his mouth. She emphasizes she's the employer. Shut up and listen. She's not asking him to curse people, but to curse corporations. Jisung never imagined corporations could be cursed. Manager Mi explains, if a shrine blesses a corporation, that corporation prospers. Conversely, if a death curse is cast, problems arise. So one can profit by predicting stock prices. Therefore, corporations hire shamans, they're even willing to pay billions. Manager Mi is a talent scout for shamans. She'll price Jisung's abilities appropriately. Jisung stares at the business card. He wants to become a shaman worth billions. Even if only a few can achieve this, with that money, he could send grandmother to a good nursing home. Leave this neighborhood that could be demolished any day, no longer worry about money at 18, and show those who abandoned him. Soon, he makes up his mind. Manager Mi asks for his decision. Jisung says he needs money. Hearing this, Manager Mi breathes a sigh of relief. She then wants to take Jisung for a test. Jisung didn't expect a second hurdle. Manager Mi explains, I can't just hand you a high-paying job for free. I need to verify your abilities. She signals Cheolgan to get the car. The test won't be for nothing. She'll pay Jisung 3,000,000 for 6 hours. Jisung calculates it's actually 39,001. Hearing this, Manager Mi smiles with amusement. In the car, Manager Mi wants to understand Jisung's curse method, so she questions him. What were your 3 elements for the curse? Jisung answers, the sacrifice was blood sausage. Hearing this, Manager Mi is taken aback. The music was just some death metal I randomly picked on YouTube. The incantation was one grandmother used before. Manager Mi never expected Ji Seung could break someone's legs with such crude elements. If even one element had been properly prepared, that guy would be dead. Manager Mi can't help feeling secretly delighted. Ji Seung thinks he did something wrong. Next comes the preparation. The ritual will be held tonight. Ji Seung will lead it. First, the sacrifice is a dead cow. The music will be a death metal band. Finally, the ritual tool will be an antique they rent. Soon they arrive at the company. Before them lies a magnificent ritual chamber. Jisung has never been to such a place. Manager Mi explains, this is where you'll demonstrate your abilities tonight. Jisung thought this would be small scale, but now realizes it's a real ritual. Manager Mi points, start casting the curse now. This is a chat app called Stop Loss Talk. Essentially, it's software for managing complex interpersonal relationships. This is Jisung's target today, but he looks completely confused. He doesn't understand why they're showing him this advertisement. Manager Mi introduces it to him, a social app that went viral among Generation Z with 61.2 million registered users. Among recently launched chat apps, it's in a league of its own. What puzzles Manager Mi is that this kid doesn't even know about it. Though annoyed, Jisung still doesn't understand why he needs to see this. I already told you when we came in, there's only one purpose. You'll cast a curse to make its stock price drop. That's the test. Seeing Jisung's clumsy demeanor, Manager Kim doubts Jisung's abilities. Can this kid really pass the test? After all, Stop Loss Talk's parent company Sony Tech saw its stock price rise by a full 33% at yesterday's actual launch, so Manager Kim believes Jisung lacks this capability. But if he wants to compete with first-rate shamans, this level is necessary. And don't underestimate Jisung. His grandmother saved my life when I was dying of illness. Believe that miracles flow through bloodlines. She then urges Jisung to begin. Jisung stares at the ritual tool in his hands. He has no idea how to perform such a large-scale ritual. Aside from revenge, he's never performed a ritual before, but he can't back down. His reality is a cliff with no way back. He can only try. Jisung begins to move. The music starts playing. The bass player doesn't understand rituals, but he can see Jisung can't keep up with the rhythm. His guilty expression makes it obvious, just as he's about to slow down the tempo. To help Jisung catch up, Manager Mi asks Cheolgan if he feels any tremors. Clearly not. What about the room temperature? It hasn't changed either. This makes Manager Kim decide to eliminate Jisung. Manager Mi strides forward. She slaps Jisung hard across the face. Jisung wants to ask why, but Manager Mi says furiously, you're here to demonstrate your ability, not to perform a monkey show. Jisung innocently says he followed the steps. What more does she want? This curse lacks killing intent. The curse you cast on your bully had at least a little killing intent. Now, with better conditions, there's no killing intent at all. Jisung becomes hysterical. He has no reason to curse a corporation and no experience. How can he curse properly? It's actually simple. Just concentrate all your negative emotions into one point and release them. Jisung clearly doesn't understand. Manager Mi continues. Your resentment toward the parents who abandoned you. Your helplessness at being unable to care for your only family. Your anxiety from financial struggles. Your alienation from peers because you have no money and no parents. Your hatred from enduring long-term bullying. If that's not enough, add the humiliation you just felt. Cast the curse again, though furious. What angers Jisung most is that every word Manager Mi said is true. Jisung wants to prove himself and seize this opportunity. So now he gets serious. First, he smears blood on the wooden blade, then he grips the blade in reverse. Seeing this, Manager Mi signals to restart. Powerful music surges forth. Jisung performs the sword dance to the rhythm. This time, he not only keeps pace, but moves faster than the beat, until every last ounce of strength is drained. This makes Cheolgan tremble. The room temperature drops. Manager Mi watches Jisung's figure. She seems to see grandmother's shadow. The next second, she freezes. A black lotus blooms from Jisung's chest. The ritual concludes. Manager Mi can't help but shed tears. She believes Seung will definitely become the strongest shaman. Having completed everything, Ji Seung's strength fails. His consciousness fades. Before collapsing, he thinks of grandmother. Then he falls from anemia. Seeing this, Manager Mi rushes forward to check Ji Seung's condition. Ji Seung is eventually sent to the hospital. Meanwhile, in an office building somewhere, a man sits anxiously at his computer. Despite being a company veteran, he's been subtly marginalized recently. He also feels excluded by the software itself. He opens administrative privileges. He hesitates whether to open the user logs. Once opened, stop-loss talk will be destroyed, but he doesn't know. A door appearing behind him. Inside the door is a ghostly hand. It slowly approaches the man. It makes the choice for him. This is Ji Seung's death curse technique. Evil ghost reaching palm, eight-armed hand ghost. When the man comes to his senses, the damage is already done. In the morning, Ji Seung is still recovering in the hospital. Manager Mi tends to him. She then calls the company boss. This man is Justin, CEO of Gold Cross. Justin immediately complains that Manager Mi is calling too early. Manager Mi scolds him. Being early doesn't mean we won't make money, does it? Hearing this, Justin perks up. He asks Manager Mi for details. Manager Mi instructs Justin to short Sony Tech when the market opens. Justin is skeptical. Sony Tech stock is currently rising steadily. But on second thought, Manager Mi wouldn't call without confidence. Manager Mi asks about the company's liquid assets. The answer is about 8 billion won. Hearing this, Manager Mi says it's too little. Justin nearly jumps up. 8 billion is more than enough for one short sale. And I haven't even agreed yet. Shorting a steadily rising stock requires caution. Hearing this, Manager Mi stakes her 2 billion won year-end bonus, but demands the commission rate increase to 10%. Justin thinks this money-obsessed woman has lost her mind. She must have found a star. So he agrees. But Manager Mi has one more thing. She warns Justin to sleep with women less often, or he'll lose his fortune. Justin immediately pushes away to women. He's eager to make money now. Ji Seung finally wakes up 2.5 hours later. He opens his eyes to see Manager Mi in a bathrobe. This embarrasses him. He quickly asks Manager Mi to get dressed. Manager Mi changes the subject. It's market opening time now. This is the moment Ji Seung changes his fate. However, the fate-changing moment doesn't come easily. Instead, there's bitter silence. Sony Tech's stock price is rising in real time. This makes Ji Seung suspect something went wrong. The company's stock isn't falling at all, it's rising. At this moment, Manager Kim enters and interrupts. If the company suffers losses this time, the team leader will be responsible. Manager Mi is certain the stock will fall. Manager Kim remains skeptical. Manager Mi becomes irritated. I've earned the company over 10 billion won with an 82% success rate. I'm certain the stock will drop before closing. If there are losses, I'll take full responsibility. Tell the board not to be cowards. Ji Seung feels suffocated, though he's not responsible. He doesn't understand why this woman remains unwavering. 2.5 minutes later, the turning point begins. The downward trend becomes increasingly clear, eventually turning into a crash. Ji Seung isn't sure if it succeeded, but Manager Mi's expression says everything. Everyone at the exchange erupts in chaos. No one knows what happened. Rumors say insiders have started selling. At this moment, a man catches everyone's attention. News breaks that a developer unauthorized opened the login logs. Everyone crowds around. The screen shows the hacked version of stop-loss talk. The news has spread. The culprit behind all this fled overseas that very day. Next comes massive user exodus. Nearly 1 million users deleted their accounts that day. The software for managing complex relationships lost all credibility. The stock price experienced 3 consecutive crashes. It's now worthless. Ji Seung sees the news. He cautiously asks if they succeeded. Manager Mi never expected. Ji Seung could destroy a company with just one death curse. Accurately speaking, not just one company, but an entire division. This can no longer be described as monstrous. This kid is clearly a human money printing machine. Clearly, Ji Seung passed with unexpected results. This makes him breathe a sigh of relief. Ji Seung officially becomes a Yahello shaman. Manager Mi tells Ji Seung to call her team leader from now on. They'll be seeing each other often. Next comes the time to collect the rewards. Manager Mi brings Ji Seung to meet Justin at the company. Ji Seung has never been to such a luxurious place. He only snaps back to reality when Manager Mi introduces Justin. Justin never expected the hired shaman to be just a kid. Ji Seung thinks he won't be accepted because of his age, but Justin doesn't care. He hands Ji Seung his business card. He says he has high expectations. After all, no one would refuse a money printing machine. Manager Mi tells Justin to get to the point. He claps his hands. A case of cash is brought before Ji Seung. The total amount is over 500 million won. Ji Seung is in disbelief. This turns out to be his ritual fee. Ji Seung is confused. Wasn't the ritual fee already transferred? Manager Mi explains that was just hourly wage. This is commission. We earn this because of you, so take it as your share. Hearing this, Ji Seung freezes in shock. Until Manager Mi says, if you don't want it, give it to me. He snatches the case. He's never seen this much money in his life. Every bit of money had to be carefully budgeted. Even then, he often owed meal fees, so he needs time to process this. Manager Mi tells Ji Seung to stay calm. The company will help him earn much more in the future. Before leaving, Justin tells Ji Seung not to be poached. He's willing to pay more. Having touched money he's never touched in his life, Ji Seung already knows where to spend it first. Ji Seung takes grandmother to a barbecue restaurant. During the meal, he mentions the nursing home. Grandmother asks, they won't only give 1 meal a day like you, will they? Ji Seung doesn't know whether to laugh or cry. Including snacks, there are 5 meals. I can send you there tomorrow. It's not far from home. I can visit every day. Grandmother tells Ji Seung not to say things she doesn't understand. Jisung promises to give grandmother a better life. Manager Mi witnesses the scene. She has high hopes for Jisung. Kyogun also thinks he's different from other shamans. Very kind. Manager Mi hopes Jisung can go far. She has a certain inexplicable fondness for him. News of Jisung destroying a company quickly reaches other shamans. This man is Li Ta Shua, chief shaman of Osong Finance. The next day, Jisung brings grandmother to the nursing home to complete the paperwork. After paying for 2 years at the nursing home, 400 million won remains. Jisung feels like it's not real. Having never possessed such wealth, he doesn't know how to use it. Manager Mi asks Jisung what he'll do with the money. Jisung wants to buy a place to live first. Beyond that, he suggests depositing the rest in a bank. Manager Mi counters. A kid like you depositing this much money at once. Is that really appropriate? Jisung deflates immediately. Manager Mi decides to teach Jisung how to spend money. Jisung doesn't understand. Are there other ways to spend money? There may not be many ways to earn money, but there are countless ways to spend it. First is the housing issue. Jisung initially thinks living alone is too extravagant. Manager Mi warns Jisung, if you're stingy about your living space, you might end up in a psychiatric ward. Jisung doesn't want to spend the rest of his life in a mental hospital. Next comes purchasing furniture, then ritual tools. They arrive at an antique shop. Manager Mi leads Jisung to the shop owner. The shop owner sees the deadly aura around Jisung. He knows their purpose for coming. Manager Mi compliments the shop owner's sharp perception as always. The shop owner tells Manager Mi to skip the small talk. What's your budget? Manager Mi immediately says 100 million won. Jisung never imagined a ritual tool would cost this much. For long-term use, it needs to be at least this level. The shop owner then pulls out a box. Inside is a string of skull-shaped bells. Jisung immediately picks it up and examines it. This is his first personal ritual tool. The shop owner warns Jisung, don't let it consume you. Leaving the antique shop, Manager Mi asks Jisung how much money remains. About 150 million won is left. Jisung wants to save some just in case, but no investment means no returns. Manager Mi tells Jisung not to be reluctant. Jisung reluctantly agrees. The top priority is an assistant shaman. They have more experience than a novice shaman like you. Most importantly, when your power runs out, the assistant shaman can take over. This woman is the Mephistopheles fairy, Urahi. She refuses without hesitation, though she's down on her luck now. Until recently, she was the first disciple of Korea's top cursed shaman. Her pride won't allow her to assist a novice. She emphasizes her business is doing well, but Manager Mi exposes her on the spot. Urahi rushes forward to grab the phone. Manager Mi immediately offers generous compensation, then signals Jisung. Though reluctant, Jisung pulls out several stacks of cash. Manager Mi takes the opportunity to introduce Jisung. After all, serving as assistant to Yoido's most terrifying shaman isn't so bad, so she agrees. Next is a driver and bodyguard. This man is Choi Dae-ho, former Iron Dragon faction action captain. As expected, he refuses. Manager Mi again deploys the power of cash. Indeed, there's no problem money can't solve. Finally, the band. The same one from before. The bass player approaches Jisung. He believes Jisung can bring inspiration to his music. He hopes to work with Jisung long term. Jisung couldn't ask for more. Back in the car, Manager Mi continues talking about precautions. Jisung thanks her awkwardly. Manager Mi proudly states she's only helping Jisung for the money. Business doesn't require gratitude. One last trip, Jisung needs to pack his belongings. The scene before him is unbelievable. His home has become a sea of flames. The words ghost eyes are painted on the wall. Jisung knows exactly who did this. He hasn't taken anything out yet. Manager Mi tells Ji Seung to cast another curse. Didn't we just assemble the team today? So perform the sword dance again. Because the building is old, it's basically burned completely. The firefighters apologize for this. Ji Seung can no longer endure this. He's going to end this once and for all. His team arrives at the scene 2.5 minutes later. Manager Mi briefly explains the situation. Bullying at school wasn't enough. They even came and burned down Jisung's home. Everyone wants to comfort him, but doesn't know how. Jisung stares at the ritual tool in his hands. After a moment, he tells anyone who can't handle this to leave. Daeho's motto is just pay me. Urahi believes they're asking for death. The bass player says he'll perform a killing melody. Preparations are complete. This is Jisung's first fully prepared ritual. The assistant shaman begins chanting the incantation. When the last word falls, Jisung begins the sword dance. The sound of shaking bells rings out. It becomes increasingly urgent, finally converging into a death curse. Meanwhile, Kim Jae-hyun is street racing with his companions. The blonde guy worries burning the house will bring consequences, but Kim Jae-hyun is indifferent. There's no politician my dad doesn't know anyway. The blonde guy actually worries Kim Jae-hyun will be cursed again. Kim Jae-hyun says dismissively, if anything breaks again, I'll kill Chi and Ji-sung. A truck driver nearby complains about these street racing youngsters. Suddenly, he discovers a figure has appeared in front of his truck. When he sees clearly, he panics. What's ahead isn't human at all, but a ghost with hollow eyes. This terrifies him into jerking the steering wheel to escape. Unexpectedly, the truck overturns, heading straight toward Kim Jae-hyun's group. After a heavy crash, the scene is chaotic. Kim Jae-hyun doesn't know what happened. His leg is already trapped under the vehicle. He wants to call his companions for help. The next second, his eyes widen in shock. Turns out his companions seem more concerned about themselves. He can only place his hope on the phone nearby. Just as he tries to move toward it, he realizes the motorcycle has completely pinned his leg. At this moment, the sound of high heels echoes in the distance. Kim Jae-hyun immediately calls for help. The sound of high heels grows closer. Finally, the female ghost stands before Kim Jae-hyun. At this point, he can only shout for her to stay away. Then he pulls out a cross as a last struggle. He frantically yells that he's a pastor's son. Before he finishes speaking, a ghostly hand reaches toward him. It grabs the cross. Watching the cross crumble to dust before his eyes, Kim Jae-hyun falls into complete despair. He never imagined Ji Seung could be this ruthless. The person who bullied Ji Seung since elementary school is dead, though Ji Seung feels somewhat uneasy. He doesn't regret it. He resolves that no one will bully him again. To achieve this, he needs wealth and reputation. So he calls Manager Mi. He needs as many jobs as possible now. It doesn't matter which company. Ji Seung and his team perform ritual after ritual. They consecutively destroy several companies. During that time, Ji Seung's group becomes known as the Grim Reaper of Yoido. Ji Seung earns billions in commission from this. Next comes the time to share the rewards. Ji Seung is no longer alone. Yurahi feels she's no longer so resistant to assisting a novice shaman. Choi Dae-ho thinks this is much easier than being a gangster. With this money, the band can even release an album. Manager Mi witnesses this scene. She approaches to claim her share. Ji Seung is puzzled. Does Manager Mi need money? Whether rich or poor, no one ever thinks they have enough money. Ji Seung thinks she's a greedy demon. Manager Mi is at least 50 times wealthier than him. It seems Ji Seung hasn't prepared a gift for her. Manager Mi angrily turns to leave, but Ji Seung grabs her. Actually, Ji Seung did prepare a gift. He's not an ungrateful person. He then anxiously observes Manager Mi's reaction. Manager Mi is unexpectedly delighted. Of course, there's one for Chil-gun too. A pair of sunglasses. Despite earning so much money, Ji Seung hasn't even bought himself new clothes. Manager Mi then offers to treat everyone to drinks. The group heads to a bar. Manager Mi sits down next to Ji Seung, but the others are nowhere to be seen. Turns out Yurahi couldn't handle her alcohol. She caused a scene vomiting in the bathroom and was sent home by Dae-ho. The band went to their rehearsal studio to continue the party. Ji Seung only drank soda, so he's not drunk. Manager Mi happens to have something to discuss privately with Ji Seung. This makes Ji Seung's imagination run wild. Obviously, it's about work. Hearing this, Ji Seung appears flustered, but he doesn't understand what there is to discuss. Actually, Ji Seung's performance has been excellent so far. The problem is your name has spread. Yodo's financial institutions call you the sudden death shaman, and they're watching you closely. This means Ji Seung may have to face other shamans. They try to protect company stock prices from curse effects, or completely defeat Ji Seung's curses to raise stock prices. They use counter-rituals to fight back. This man's purpose is exactly that. He's Kim Woon-suk, strategic director of Fibonacci Capital. Gold Cross has shorted stocks his company has been investing in 4 months, so his company needs Osan Finance's help. To counter the sudden death shaman, Lee Tai-kua becomes interested, crushing several companies in succession. This is all the sudden death shaman's work. Fibonacci shamans aren't sufficient to handle this, so Kim Woon-seok begs Lee Tai-kua to perform a ritual. However, Lee Tai-kua only handles projects of a certain scale. He won't take on something like this, but he won't abandon a company he's worked with so many times. So he'll lend a shaman to Fibonacci. Lee Tai-hua then calls the shaman in. This massive figure is the shaman for this task. He appears to be a monk weighing over 300 pounds. He is Osan Finance's 5th seat, the Bodhisattva Gong Yang Hua. He then arrives at a Chinese restaurant and begins feasting. He looks like he could eat forever. This leaves Kim Woon-suk at a loss. He hopes to start discussing work soon. The assistant signals him not to disturb the Buddha's meal. To accumulate merit, he can only reluctantly agree. 2.5 hours later, Gong Yang Hua finally finishes eating. Kim Woon-suk never expected to spend 10 million won on one meal before work even began. The monk before him is thoroughly satisfied. He then whispers to his assistant. The assistant says they can discuss work now. This delights Kim Woon-suk. He quickly pulls out his notes. Their understanding is that Gold Cross's short position expires this Friday, so they'll likely cast the curse between today and Thursday night. The Buddha will begin performing rituals tonight. Kim Woon-suk thanks him repeatedly. There's one more condition. During the ritual period, food like today's must be continuously provided. This means the ritual requires 3 consecutive days of meals. Without this condition, the ritual cannot proceed. Finally, the assistant suggests locating Ji Seung. The Buddha wants to meet him before performing the ritual. Meanwhile, Ji Seung sits in the car. His ritual is scheduled for Thursday, so Manager Mi tells Ji Seung to take care of himself. Seeing his troubled expression, Manager Mi quickly asks what's wrong. Ji Seung is actually anxious, facing a shaman for the first time. He's afraid he'll lose. Manager Mi tells Ji Seung to stay calm. Besides, she hasn't heard any rumors about the opposing company's counterattack. Don't worry about things that haven't happened yet. Focus on staying in optimal condition. At this moment, Ji Seung arrives at his destination. He walks toward home. Suddenly, a woman blocks his path. She inexplicably says a Buddha wants to see him. The location is in the underground parking garage. Ji Seung follows the woman to the parking garage to investigate. The woman opens the truck's cargo compartment. Gong Yang Hua sits inside. Ji Seung never expected this massive blob to be called Buddha. Gong Yang Hua waves for his assistant to come forward, then whispers in the assistant's ear again. Ji Seung wants to ask something. The assistant tells him to remain silent. The Buddha has a message to convey. First, the introduction. This is one of Yodo's top 5 shamans, the Bodhisattva Gong Yang Hua. He's here to inform Ji Seung who he's facing this time. This is exactly what Manager Mi mentioned. This is his first time encountering such a situation. The assistant tells him to give up this job, arrogantly saying Ji Seung is no match. The Buddha's experience far exceeds anything Ji Seung possesses. But because the Buddha is a peace advocate, he's giving Ji Seung a chance to withdraw. If Ji Seung gives up now, the Buddha will give him some gold as a gift. Before finishing, Gong Yang Hua pulls gold from his belly and tosses it to Ji Seung. Ji Seung is bewildered by this. Suddenly, a voice interrupts them. It's Manager Mi who came because she was worried. She asks Jisung why he's listening to a pig squeal. In her view, Gong Yanghua is afraid of this novice Jisung. This makes Gong Yanghua angrily stand up and threaten to make Jisung taste curse transference. He states bluntly that Jisung is a parasite feeding on others' pain. Jisung falls into self-doubt for a moment. He hadn't realized his rituals brought suffering to ordinary people. Manager Mi bursts into laughter. Gong Yanghua doesn't seem to understand what this woman finds funny. You call yourself a Buddha, but you just use rituals to inflate the stock prices of worthless companies to attract retail investors. Gold Cross lowers the stock prices of companies with no intrinsic value. Which one is darker is obvious. Gong Yanghua is rendered speechless. Manager Mi tells Jeong Ji Seung to pull himself together. She wants to show this pig who is truly favored by the gods. In the end, they fail to achieve their goal and can only prepare to leave with resentment. Before leaving, Gong Yanghua swears to make Jeong Ji Seung experience what it feels like to be abandoned. He will pour everything into this ritual. He will even use the same standards from his younger days. On the other side, Manager Mi is reminding Jeong Ji Seung about safety precautions, but Jeong Ji Seung appears lost in thought. Manager Mi assumes he is just feeling anxious, but this is not the answer Jeong Ji Seung wants. He does not care about criticism from others. It is just that what Gong Yanghua said before leaving about abandonment particularly concerns him. Because Jeong Ji Seung experienced trauma before, he absolutely cannot tolerate betrayal. His parents frequently fought when he was young. His father would also commit domestic violence. In the end, he even abandoned him. Therefore, Jeong Ji Seung is especially sensitive to the topic of abandonment. Manager Mi promises she will never betray Jeong Ji Seung, as he is the best asset she has ever found. This finally puts Jeong Ji Seung at ease. He gathers his spirit again. Now he needs to know the essentials of battling other shamans. The first priority is to assemble the team. To confront the opposing shaman, Jeong Ji Seung gathers his team. Manager Mi begins leading the meeting. First, attack and defense are essentially a clash of magical power between both sides. This is an all-out battle with no holds barred until one side completely gains the upper hand. Both shamans are betting everything. So this is crucial for Jeong Ji Seung. He sighs that Jeong Ji Seung has terrible luck facing an opposing shaman so soon after entering the profession. Jeong Ji Seung does not yet know how serious this is. In most cases, the defeated shaman will be forced to retire because the losing side will suffer severe internal injuries or have their connection to the spirits forcibly severed. He is surprised that Jeong Ji Seung does not even know this. Although Gong Yanghua is past his peak, it has only been 10 years. What Jeong Ji Seung is facing now is a former top-tier shaman. Jeong Ji Seung never expected his opponent to be so famous. Suddenly, a pen cap flies over and interrupts the two. On second thought, if Manager Mi were not confident, she would never let Jeong Ji Seung participate. Jeong Ji Seung will have to face this kind of situation sooner or later anyway. So, under no circumstances should anyone say things that will damage his confidence. Choi Dae-ho raises his question. Does this mean Jeong Ji Seung is the stronger shaman? Or is there a strategy to help secure victory? Actually, they all overlook that Jeong Ji Seung is much stronger than imagined. Manager Mi already has a perfect strategy. Gong Yanghua will definitely construct defensive fortifications. Attacks from all directions will be nearly useless against him. However, in other words, he is actually digging his own grave. Time quickly arrives at Thursday night. The preparations on Gong Yanghua's side are complete. He himself is now soaking in a bath. This is a grand feast, and the time is almost right. Gong Yanghua immediately shouts for the ritual master to begin. Everyone starts their tasks at hand. The monk who is frantically consuming raw meat begins to emanate golden spiritual energy. Finally, it condenses into a massive sphere above the company building. Then it explodes with a thunderous boom. This is Gong Yanghua's defensive spell, the Laughing Buddha. It is said to be an incarnation of Maitreya Buddha. He has a large belly and a radiant smile on his face, always carrying a huge cloth bag. He distributes food to the hungry. He teaches others with his extraordinary foresight. Therefore, he is worshipped as a deity in many countries. He serves as a symbol of virtue, luck, and wealth. Manager Mi in the distance also sees this scene. Although their opponent is a benevolent deity, the shaman who summons him may not be benevolent. As she speaks, the Laughing Buddha across from them begins to move. Manager Mi immediately sees through the purpose. As expected, a protective barrier forms above the company building. This makes Manager Mi sigh that their side looks like villains summoning evil gods. Now the ritual is fully prepared, only waiting for the manager's command. Manager Mi immediately orders, begin. Almost at the same moment, Jeong Ji Seung and the support shaman begin chanting spells. The music also begins. Dozens of gates suddenly appear in the sky. Manager Han observes the scene from a distance. The gates are slowly opening. This is the death curse technique. Hungry ghosts of hell. They rapidly attack the Laughing Buddha. However, the Laughing Buddha slices them in half with a single strike. A group of hungry ghosts is instantly reduced to ashes. Seeing this, the hungry ghosts immediately change formation. The power difference is evident once again. There is no need to avoid battle. The next second, the Laughing Buddha scatters a handful of refined rice. It instantly pierces through the attacking hungry ghosts. Attacks continue to come from behind. Seeing this, the Laughing Buddha turns and neutralizes the attacks with his cloth bag. It seems Gong Yanghua currently has the upper hand. Jeong Ji Seung is already teetering on the edge of defeat. The Laughing Buddha's defense is stronger than expected. The hungry ghosts are being consumed too quickly. Manager Mi immediately tells Kyogun to call. She needs to figure out how much distance remains. Kyogun immediately makes the call. The answer he gets is 16 feet remaining. Manager Mi thinks it is still too slow and tells Jeong Ji Seung to move faster. Try to strike when the opponent lets their guard down. Manager Mi believes that with Jeong Ji Seung's abilities, he can definitely do it. On the other side, The laughing Buddha has nearly eliminated all the hungry ghosts. This makes Gong Yanghua think that the sudden death shaman is nothing but exaggeration. From the current situation, Jeong Ji Seung cannot possibly be his match. As long as this ritual succeeds, he will be able to reclaim his position. Manager Han shows an expression of admiration. Now he is ready to ramp up the intensity. Although Gong Yanghua blocks the first wave of attacks, he will not let his guard down. Suddenly, his expression changes dramatically. He looks up at the sky. Behind the laughing Buddha, a massive gate has appeared at some point. On Jeong Ji Seung's side, he finally completes the 66 feet of blades, and he does not fall off. At this, Manager Mi only smiled slightly. Now the tables are about to turn. This is Jeong Ji Seung's death curse technique, the guillotine general. Gong Yanghua cannot believe that Jeong Ji Seung can complete 2 rituals in such a short time. This is exactly as Manager Mi planned. Actually, it is not that Jeong Ji Seung completed 2 rituals. Rather, 2 rituals were conducted from the very beginning. The support shaman's hungry ghosts of hell were merely a distraction. What secures victory is Jeong Ji Seung's death curse. Actually, at first, Jeong Ji Seung did not even know what these 2 blades were. They represent Blade Mountain Hell. Because the blades are absurdly long, almost no shamans attempt this challenge. But there is no reward without risk. Compared to ordinary blades, this type can amplify Jeong Ji Seung's spiritual power by at least 2 to 3 times. Jeong Ji Seung initially refuses, because this is simply impossible. But Manager Mi grabs hold of him. She always trusts her own judgment. Jeong Ji Seung indeed completes the entire course. Therefore, he can summon a deity to lead him to victory. In the next second, Jeong Ji Seung decisively launches an offensive. The aftermath of the fury directly shakes Gong Yanghua. Manager Han still does not know what is happening. At this moment, the general has already raised his guillotine blade. He swings the blade fiercely toward the laughing Buddha. Watching the attack so close at hand, Gong Yanghua recalls his reason for absolutely not being able to lose. He hears the discussions outside the door clearly. Now he faces a crisis. He suffers from nearly every disease caused by obesity. His subordinates are all preparing to jump ship. Manager Han angrily prepares to confront them, but Gong Yanghua stops her. He does not believe this will change their minds. He will prove himself with his skills. If this ritual fails, he will be fired. So, facing this fierce attack, Gong Yanghua can only brace himself and resist. He has a reality that absolutely does not allow him to lose. He immediately instructs Manager Han that he will increase his investment further. This makes Manager Han worry about his physical condition. However, at this point, there is no turning back. Manager Han can only reluctantly agree. Currently, the battle has reached a fever pitch, but according to what Manager Mi knows, Gong Yanghua cannot possibly hold out this long. It seems that to end the match, the 2 rituals must be merged. On the other end, Choi Dae-ho relays this message to Jeong Ji Seung. At this moment, Jeong Ji Seung is already struggling. However, he decisively launches another attack. Choi Dae-ho worries about Jeong Ji Seung's physical condition. But no matter what, he must keep moving forward. He cannot stop because he has companions who have sacrificed so much for this. Now the ritual merging begins. Jeong Ji Seung picks up his ritual tools again. The support shaman leads with the incantation, then the music. Finally, Jeong Ji Seung steps onto the blades once more. This allows him to unleash a powerful force. The same is true on Gong Yanghua's side. Both sides face off once again. Now, this battle has evolved into a pure contest of spiritual power. Let them see who is more favored by the gods. The support shaman on Gong Yanghua's side has already burned out. Now he cannot defeat Jeong Ji Seung. Only when dawn arrives will there be a chance. On one side is the rising star called the sudden death shaman. On the other side is the industry elite known as the Bodhisattva. One desperately grasps for the future, the other desperately tries to reclaim past glory. Now is the moment to determine the victor. As the sun climbs over the horizon, morning has arrived. Manager Han sees this and is about to turn back to notify the Bodhisattva. However, Gong Yanghua is already trembling all over. He collapses and loses consciousness on the spot. The laughing Buddha he summoned gradually dissipates. Then, the general raises 2 blades. He swings 2 blade energies. This finishes off the opponent. Light Hua also observes everything from not far away. Gong Yanghua, struck by the backlash, loses consciousness immediately. Manager Han quickly rushes forward to drag him. It takes great effort to pull him out of the bath. She immediately begins emergency measures. She knows how everyone judges Gong Yanghua, although they all say he is a has-been or a pig. She does not care. Manager Han's loyalty to Gong Yanghua is not without reason. It goes back to 3 years ago when she first met Gong Yanghua. At that time, Gong Yanghua was not as obese as he is now, though his appetite was still large. When Manager Han was cleaning, she often ended up with a total mess. This devastated her. She thought that coming to Oshang Finance as a secretary would improve her life. Unexpectedly, the job turns out to be cleaning up garbage for a cult pig. The next day, Manager Han comes to deliver documents to Gong Yanghua. Gong Yanghua asks for Manager Han's name and asks if she knows that someone in her family is sick. But how could she possibly know when she is so busy with work? Gong Yanghua tells Manager Han to take her family member for a checkup. Manager Han just finds it rather absurd. However, she eventually wavers. She calls her mother. Unfortunately, her mother has pancreatic cancer. Fortunately, it is discovered early and can still be treated. Manager Han tells her mother not to worry about money. She will take care of everything. However, her mother refuses treatment. She does not want her only family member to ruin her life because of her. She feels she has lived long enough. Manager Han has already grown up now. Throughout her life, her mother has always accommodated her wishes. But this time, her mother has made her own decision. At this moment, Manager Han feels a profound sense of helplessness. Gong Yonghua's words shine like a ray of light into her life. He will pay all the medical expenses and let Manager Han take leave until her mother recovers. Manager Han wants to ask why, But Gong Yanghua simply says that perhaps helping those around him might satisfy his insatiable hunger. So he hopes she will not mind the help from a selfish cult pig. This is why she is now desperately performing emergency measures. Seeing Gong Yanghua has no response, she can only weakly pat him. She does not understand why Gong Yanghua cannot save himself, why he would die so miserably. She cannot accept this. Just at this moment, Gong Yanghua finally responds. Everything settles. Now it is time for the final stage. Manager Mi steps forward to bandage Jeong Ji Seung's wounds. Jeong Ji Seung thinks just applying some ointment would be fine. Manager Mi knows he has done his best. Jeong Ji Seung performed very well this time. This is exactly what Jeong Ji Seung wants to hear. However, there's one more thing. Because Jeong Ji Seung won an encounter ritual this time, he will become a star shaman. Manager Mi seems to guess what Jeong Ji Seung is thinking, and tells him not to be too ridiculous. Jeong Ji Seung sheepishly defends himself that he was not thinking anything. Actually, what Manager Mi means is that Jeong Ji Seung now has fans and haters. Because Jeong Ji Seung defeated a former top 5 member of Ashong Finance, many financial institutions will come seeking him. These are the fans. Conversely, financial institutions closely tied to Ashong Finance and shamans afraid of losing their jobs are the haters. Jeong Ji Seung is happy that people will support him. He thinks this is a good thing. Before he finishes speaking, Manager Mi flicks his forehead, because sometimes fans can be more terrifying than haters. As expected, the effect of Jeong Ji Seung's ritual this time is remarkable. It is hard not to attract attention. The man before them is Ma Young-sung, the CEO of Hone Investment, and the man beside him is Solgit, the shaman of Hone. There is a reason why Jeong Ji Seung attracts so much attention this time. In the history of Yodo, the only shaman to defeat a top-tier shaman during the novice period was Lee Taikua. If they can recruit Jeong Ji Seung, they will be able to monopolize all cursed shaman business in Yodo. This immediately piques Ma Young-sung's interest. By whatever means necessary, Ma Young-sung must poach Jeong Ji Seung. At this moment, Jeong Ji Seung is exercising with Manager Mi at the gym. This exhausts him thoroughly. Manager Mi appears completely relaxed. The current training is to prevent fainting during rituals. So far, Jeong Ji Seung has relied on willpower to persevere, but if an accident occurs, the game will be over. Hearing this, Jeong Ji Seung no longer dares to complain. However, there's one more thing. Manager Mi instructs Jeong Ji Seung to live with Choi De-ho. Jeong Ji Seung thinks it is only for a few days, but Manager Mi's answer is indefinitely. Jeong Ji Seung is a bit confused. Manager Mi asks Jeong Ji Seung to think about it. How did Gong Yanghua find you last time? As mentioned before, winning in a counter ritual made you a major celebrity. People might come looking for you. So, you need someone to protect you around the clock. So, what is your answer? Anyway, Manager Mi will not accept a negative answer. So, naturally, he accepts. The next day, Choi De-ho arrives at Jeong Ji Seung's home with his luggage. He then asks where his room is. Jeong Ji Seung has reserved the innermost room for him. De-ho's scrutinizing gaze makes Jeong Ji Seung a bit uncomfortable. He now worries whether he can get along well with this former gang member. However, he will soon realize that this is a meaningless worry. The next morning, Jeong Ji Seung hears sounds from the kitchen. It turns out De-ho has already prepared a hearty breakfast. And when Jeong Ji Seung takes a bite, he discovers it is not just for show. Moreover, this gang member also knows how to clean. The bathroom immediately becomes sparkling clean. On the way to work, he even provides snacks for Jeong Ji Seung. When Jeong Ji Seung returns home after a day of work, feeling very tired, De-ho invites him to have a cup of tea to relax. Looking at the tea in his hand, Jeong Ji Seung voices his question. Did De-ho know how to do housework before? De-ho thought he was burdening Jeong Ji Seung, but he is just curious. All of this is because De-ho has a daughter. Jeong Ji Seung cannot believe De-ho is already married. This makes De-ho somewhat displeased. Jeong Ji Seung does think that if he is married, shouldn't he return to his family? De-ho answers that he is divorced. His daughter was awarded to her mother. He works so hard to earn money for custody. His relationship with his daughter is better than with his wife. But because he has a criminal record, he cannot obtain custody. However, if he has better financial conditions, the court might reconsider. Jeong Ji Seung now thinks De-ho is clearly a good father. His own father pays no attention to him at all. De-ho does not know how to comfort him for a moment, and can only tell Jeong Ji Seung to finish drinking and go to sleep. Just as Jeong Ji Seung prepares to go to sleep, De-ho still offers him words of comfort. This makes Jeong Ji Seung feel an unprecedented warmth. Another busy day ends. This time, De-ho prepares hot tea for Jeong Ji Seung. Just at this moment, De-ho's daughter calls. He first seeks Jeong Ji Seung's consent, then he answers the call. De-ho's daughter is in poor condition. She has been living alone for 3 consecutive days. Her mother has not returned home for 3 days. This infuriates De-ho. Hearing this, Jeong Ji Seung holds him back. He suggests they can go pick up De-ho's daughter and bring her to his place. Just as they prepare to drive to pick her up, bright lights suddenly flash ahead. A group of cars surrounds them. Before the two can figure out what is happening, Solgit gets out of the car. With him are his lackeys. Jeong Ji Seung appears somewhat panicked. Solgit expresses his desire to talk with Jeong Ji Seung. De-ho tells Jeong Ji Seung not to go out. Seeing that Jeong Ji Seung does not get out of the car, Solgit has malicious intentions. He turns to give instructions to White Hair. White Hair blows a whistle. A group of thugs all get out of the cars. It seems they are resorting to violent means. Shin Ji-song has only seen this many thugs in movies. Now the movies have become reality. First, he thinks of the police. However, De-ho rejects this idea because they simply cannot reach them. Moreover, De-ho might get entangled endlessly. Better to call Manager Mi and have Kil-gun come. Then he instructs Jeong Ji Seung that he absolutely must not come out. Jeong Ji Seung still does not know what De-ho is going to do. Immediately, he pulls out a gun. The thugs beside them are frantically banging on the car windows. Daeho then rolls down the window. First, he points the gun at the thugs. Then he curses his ancestors for 18 generations. This leaves the thugs completely stunned. Solgit thought Jeong Ji Seung would hire a strong bodyguard. However, South Korea is a country with strict gun control. Whitehair immediately deduces the gun is an air gun. Hearing this, the thugs all attack Daeho. Daeho decisively pulls the trigger. A burst of red smoke erupts. Several thugs instantly lose their fighting ability. Immediately, he rummages around in the car. Getting his baton, he finally asks Jeong Ji Seung to repeat what he just said, which are to contact manager Emmy. And absolutely do not get out of the car. Jeong Ji Seung then apologizes to him. He is sorry for being caught when they were supposed to pick up Daeho's daughter. But Daeho tells Jeong Ji Seung not to worry. He will fulfill his duties as both a father and an employee. At this moment, the thugs have already stood up and urged the person in the car to come out. The next second, he is sent flying. Daeho kicks the car door open. Now wearing a gas mask, he gets out of the car. Whitehair immediately orders his men to seize Daeho because he cannot shoot at close range. The next second, he freezes. He never expected Daeho to have a gas mask. It seems he frequently uses a pepper gun in combat. There's only one person who would do this. Whitehair now remembers. This guy is the Iron Dragon faction's action captain. Now his baton is right in front of him. Seeing this, Whitehair immediately pulls out a dagger to block. This makes Daeho think this guy is pretty smart. Whitehair was also from a gang background. Although Daeho is famous, now he must face 32 enemies alone. Salga does not want to increase casualties unnecessarily. Their target is merely Jeong Ji Seung. So as long as they hand over Jeong Ji Seung, everyone will be safe. However, Daeho refuses in the next second. He is willing to do anything for money, even if it means facing 32 enemies alone. The thug he knocked down earlier stands up again. He swings a steel pipe at him. Unexpectedly, Daeho dodges by sidestepping. He strikes back directly at the jaw. Looking at the thugs rushing toward him, Daeho fires another shot. Then he charges into the crowd and starts swinging. On Jeong Ji Seung's side, he has already made the call. Hearing this, Manager Mi is also shocked. On Daeho's side, he dodges another incoming attack. The pepper spray hits directly in the face. Yellow Hair, who was knocked down earlier, pulls out a knife and stabs toward Daeho. At the same time, he receives a blow to the back of his head. Seeing the attack is effective, Yellow Hair immediately becomes smug. However, he is kicked away by Daeho. Another thug on the other side tries to ambush Daeho. He is knocked out directly with a spray of pepper. Whitehair does not understand Daeho's approach. At this moment, Salgit is urging him to finish quickly. Whitehair thinks that both he and Daeho are working for privileged jerks who know nothing about loyalty and honor. However, he still does not understand why this man is fighting so desperately. Then he sighs that he and Daeho should not have left the gang. At least loyalty had meaning there. After battling for 2.5 hours, Daeho finally collapses. 32 people are indeed too many, although he has already knocked down most of them. Whitehair demands Daeho hand over the keys or he will kill him. Daeho mocks them that these adults are actually kidnapping a kid. Just at this moment, a thug snatches the knife. He stabs fiercely toward Daeho. This guy seems quite persistent. Daeho often contemplates the meaning of his own existence. He collected debts for the gang. He participated in gang fights. He assassinated rival gang bosses. In the end, he ended up taking the fall for the gang boss's son, looking at the knife so close at hand. His final worry is that there will be no one to care for his daughter, but he can only calmly face death. However, the knife does not fall as expected. It turns out Jeong Ji Seung blocked the strike with his hand. Daeho does not understand why he did this. Everyone present is shocked. Jeong Ji Seung indicates he will go with them. However, Yellow Hair does not intend to stop. Suddenly, a strike comes and hits his face. It is so good. After all, Jeong Ji Seung is a shaman who could potentially become Hoen's greatest asset. If he becomes disabled because of this thug, that would be problematic. However, Whitehair stops him. Because other subordinates are present, they cannot make too much of a scene. Although Solgit stops, he still indicates he will hold them accountable. Then he walks up to Jeong Ji Seung. He introduces himself. He states the purpose of this visit. Jeong Ji Seung's only condition is not to harm Daeho any further. He then gets into the car with them. Daeho is also carried away. Solgit tells Jeong Ji Seung not to worry. Although they just left a bad impression, they will be working together in the future after all. Jeong Ji Seung feels Solgit is looking down on people. No one would want to work with someone who just harmed them. Solgit wants to explain something, but Jeong Ji Seung refuses his explanation. This immediately irritates him. Han is a conglomerate built on a gang foundation. If Jeong Ji Seung does not cooperate, Han will not hesitate to make him disappear. So do not show your disgust, and obediently come with me to meet the chairman. Just at this moment, the car suddenly stops. The parking lot entrance has been blocked at some point. They are in a hurry right now. Whitehair immediately orders his subordinate to open the gate. However, after 2.5 minutes, sounds come from behind. Seeing who arrives, the two are somewhat confused. The one who arrives is Chilgun. It appears the subordinate has been knocked out. Whitehair now recognizes this man is Kong Chilgun. However, Yellow Hair has already stepped forward to provoke him. When he wants to stop him, it is already too late. Seeing this, Whitehair pulls out a knife. Chiogun ignores it and only demands to know Jeong Ji Seung's whereabouts. Seeing their appearance, he likely will not get any answers. The next second, he stabs fiercely with the knife. However, he is knocked unconscious with one punch by Chiogun, along with the other thugs. Seeing this, Saljit wants to call for reinforcements. However, Chilgun has already approached. This almost makes Saljit wet his pants. Chilgun urges Saljit to open the car door, but it appears he does not intend to cooperate. Then necessary measures must be taken. The next second, the car window is shattered. Chilgun tells Jeong Ji Seung he is safe now. However, Jeong Ji Seung shows distress because Solgit has fainted from fright and even wet his pants. Jeong Ji Seung eventually gets out of the car. However, Jogu notices the injury on his hand. More importantly, they should send Daeho to the hospital first. Daeho's condition looks very poor. At the hospital, Jeong Ji Seung appears very anxious. He worries whether Daeho will be alright. Manager Mi reassures him that the surgery will not be life-threatening. However, it will require a long time to recover. Besides that, they should first think about how to retaliate against Hoenn, that gang company. Jeong Ji Seung thought the beating Kyogun delivered was already enough. However, Manager Mi states that if they leave this hornet's nest alone, troubles will be endless. Moreover, they now have a usable card. Tonight, they will use this guy to meet with Hoenn. Jeong Ji Seung asks if he also needs to go. Of course, all parties involved must go. Do you have somewhere else to be? Jeong Ji Seung now needs to deliver food to someone. Jeong Ji Seung and Chilgun arrive at the home of Daeho's daughter, Sahi. Jeong Ji Seung identifies himself as Daeho's colleague and says he will take Sahi to eat. They then go to a restaurant to eat. Manager Mi points a gun at Solgit. Her most important asset almost got lost. Solgit states he had no intention of killing anyone. Manager Mi tells him to shut up or she will roast him alive. After eating, Jeong Ji Seung brings Sohee back home. Sohee immediately sees a photo of herself with her father. Then she asks Jeong Ji Seung when her father can come back. Jeong Ji Seung can only lie that Daeho is busy with work. Before that, Jeong Ji Seung tells Sahi to treat this place as her own home. He will leave a phone number. So he knows Jeong Ji Seung is going out and asks where he is going. Jeong Ji Seung is momentarily speechless. He can only say he is going to talk to the person who is keeping Daeho so busy. There are important matters to attend to now. Subsequently, Jeong Ji Seung and his group arrive at home group. Justin asks lazily whether he really must come himself. Manager Mi says the boss on the other side is also appearing. Justin sighs that they are indeed a bunch of scoundrels. Manager Mi worries that Justin did not bring bodyguards. Is it really alright? Justin appears completely unconcerned. Anyway, no matter what, the other side can only use kitchen knives or the like. He has a gun. Jeong Ji Seung thinks it is another air gun, but Justin says this is real. I heard you were attacked, you worked hard. However, Jeong Ji Seung says he is fine and asks Justin to take good care of Daeho. This leaves Justin somewhat speechless. Sometimes you should let Manager Mi teach you how to care for yourself. Manager Mi expresses she does not want to deal with it. Before they know it, they have almost arrived. Let the work begin now. My young son has been waiting inside for a long time. Jeong Ji Seung and his group also walk in. At this moment, Jeong Ji Seung is somewhat timid. This is his first time seeing this kind of gang boss. Manager Mi sees Jeong Ji Seung's timid appearance. She grabs hold of him. Manager Mi tells Jeong Ji Seung to learn well. Watch how Justin handles this. The two first engage in a handshake strength contest. Ma Young-sung mocks Justin. Is the company so troubled that it needs to rely on shamans to catch its breath? Justin shows no weakness. It seems to be none of your business. Ma Young-sung acknowledges Justin's courage, so he wants to share some good news. He hopes Justin can sell Jeong Ji Seung to him. For this, he is willing to pay $28 billion, settled in stocks and bonds. You can find another one anyway. Ma Young-sung thinks this is a good proposal. However, Justin tells him to shut up. He bluntly states his breath stinks. Hearing this, everyone present is shocked. Ma Young-sung has not yet reacted. Justin states he has heard enough of his story. This time, let me tell mine how I reached this position in Yoida without any connections. Justin warns Ma Young-sung to try touching Jeong Ji Seung if he dares. Then he shakes off Ma Young-sung's hand. You should have learned in high school not to covet what belongs to others, or did you never attend high school? In any case, stop coveting what belongs to others. We did not come today to do business with you. We came to return your dog to you. He says this and prepares to leave. The subordinate sees someone actually daring to speak to the boss this way. He wants to step forward to teach Justin a lesson. However, the next second, he immediately calms down. After all, what Justin has in his hand is no joke. Then he chooses to leave. Just with divine power, it's very difficult to survive with Inuido. Remember the employer's imposing manner just now. After hearing this, Jeong Ji Seung nods. Although the only thing worth learning is the boldness, Justin states that if Manager Mi quits smoking, he will quit women. Manager Mi immediately rolls her eyes at him. Just at this moment, Ma Young-sung suddenly throws a pool cue. However, it is blocked by Chilgun. You people just leave on your own. Where exactly did you learn your manners? Justin retorts that it was not the school that taught you kleptomania, was it? Ma Young-sung is furious and states that as long as he leaves behind the sudden death shaman, he will let Justin barely survive Inuido. Manager Mi tells him that even being unreasonable has limits. Does he intend to use violence to threaten them? However, Ma Young-sung says that if they do not agree to his demands, he will sabotage every ritual of Gold Cross. Hearing this, Manager Mi is also shocked. Jeong Ji Seung never expected anyone could be so unreasonable. Ma Young-sung swears he will use every means to disrupt the rituals until Gold Cross goes bankrupt. Public authority will not protect these rituals of yours. So if you do not hand over the sudden death shaman, I will bring down your company. Justin tells him to bring it on. Who will die and who will survive is still uncertain. This time they really leave. Ma Young-sung now demands Selgit explain. Selgit stammers that there was a reason for his failure. Ma Young-sung clearly does not accept this answer. He now needs to vent his rage first. After punishing Selgit, Ma Young-sung states he will give Selgit one last chance. If he fails again, it will not be as simple as just a beating. Now they have completely burned bridges with Han. The three of them hold a small meeting. Manager Mi thinks declaring war directly is a bit too rash. This is not without reason. After all, Hone is a large company with capital many times greater than Gold Cross. It is now like the battle between David and Goliath. However, there is no need to worry. This means he can be destroyed in one fell swoop. They must strike at the largest subsidiary under his name. So, this ritual will target Hone Construction. As long as it succeeds, they can take down Hone in one blow. First, they must obtain approval from the board of directors. Justin clearly states they will target Hone Construction. Among all Hone subsidiaries, Hone Construction has the largest share. As long as they bring down Hone Construction, Hone Investment may never recover. Now it is time for questions. One director asks first. The company should not have excess cash available right now, correct? Justin calmly says that starting tomorrow, they will liquidate all the company's quality assets for cash. Together, it will be approximately 120 billion. This causes the directors to erupt in uproar, because if this short selling fails, the company will face bankruptcy. How could Justin not know this? Director Lee then asks him why he is doing this. That is because they dare to covet what belongs to others, and they have already declared war on us. This is a battle where everything is at stake. Either they die or we survive. For the growth of Gold Cross, please support my decision. Manager Mi waits anxiously outside. Seeing Justin emerge, she rushes to meet him. Justin says excitedly that the board of directors has approved the use of funds. This will be the largest short sale in Gold Cross history. His role ends here. Now it is Jeong Ji Seung's turn to perform. Jeong Ji Seung will give his all to avenge Daeho, who is lying in the hospital. Meanwhile, Ma Young Sung also conducts strategic discussions on his side. Problems quickly arise on Jeong Ji Seung's side. Hone bribes security and destroys their ritual site. Moreover, the detained thugs appear completely indifferent, as if they expected this all along. Not only that, even the trucks transporting materials are hijacked. The contracted assistants therefore resign. Even the band faces threats. Although nothing major happens, this cannot continue. This makes Yura-hee sigh in frustration. Manager Mi immediately steps forward and flicks her forehead. Yura-hee immediately snaps. Manager Mi calmly states that the two of them only need to consider how to perform the ritual. However, Jeong Ji Seung raises an idea at this moment. If they cannot perform the ritual inside the island, can they do it outside the island? Although it is possible, their company is inside the island. The farther from the target, the weaker the divine power becomes. Is the answer not obvious? This makes Jeong Ji Seung feel a profound sense of helplessness. It feels as if he has returned to that period. This is a war to protect himself, a war that stakes the fate of the company. But now he cannot help at all. However, Yura-hee's next words give Jeong Ji Seung inspiration. Could they not perform the ritual while moving? This gives Jeong Ji Seung a bold idea. He proposes they can perform the ritual in a vehicle. Yura-hee thinks it is impossible. Manager Mi says they can set up a small ritual site inside a truck. Jeong Ji Seung says he wants to try. For everyone, he is willing to try. Soon they build a ritual site inside the truck. Manager Mi cannot help but sigh that this is a truly moving ritual. Won has already received the news. Gold Cross's short position will expire on Friday. Over the next 3 days, the stock price remains unchanged, although it pauses slightly due to the 120 billion short sale. But after the news is released, retail investors follow Hone and purchase shares. The stock price actually rises by 5% as a result. Ma Young Sung merely says lightly that in 3 days they will see that small company go bankrupt. Have they made any moves? It seems they have completely abandoned attempts to perform rituals in Yoido. The surveillance sent out has not discovered anything special. Solgit reminds him that they may be performing the ritual outside Yoido, although the influence will be smaller than performing it in Yoido. Just in case, they should prepare blessing sorcery to protect the stock price. Ma Young Sung agrees with his suggestion. Salgit immediately states he will be prepared. However, Ma Young Sung tells him not to celebrate too early because this poaching incident makes me no longer trust you. So it is better to let Bikim handle the blessing sorcery with you assisting her. Also, there's one more thing. If this fails, you should know the consequences. Due to Ma Young Sung's suppression, Solgit feels very depressed. Just at this moment, a woman wearing white shaman robes walks in. She is Bikum, Hone's blessing shaman. Hone profits through death curses. So Solgit, who performs death curses, is the one with real power. Bikum wants to use this opportunity to overturn the situation. Then she greets Salga with a mischievous smile. However, Salga says seriously, stop being insolent and focus on the sorcery. If we fail, both of us will be finished. However, Baekam is completely confident. The probability of my blessing sorcery performed inside the island losing to a death curse from outside the island is 0%. Immediately, she steps forward, picks up a dagger, and unfolds a fan. Solgit plays a gyujang beside her. Ik Ayam performs a fan dance following the rhythm. A gate suddenly appears in front of the company. A white snake suddenly bursts out from within the gate. This is the blessing sorcery, Spirit White Porcelain Dragon. It defends by coiling around the company. Manager Mei is observing everything from not far away. For this battle, Won has even deployed all its personnel. Just at this moment, Manager Mai's phone rings. Manager Kim is calling. Everything is now ready. They can begin at any time. Jeong Ji Seung uses two steel cables to secure his body and maintain balance. Suddenly, he notices Yura is struggling to climb onto the truck bed. She has come to deliver earphones to Jeong Ji Seung. After the ritual begins, the music will be transmitted through earphones. During the ritual, he absolutely must not remove them. Yura-hee feels sorry about this. As a support shaman, she cannot accompany Jeong Ji Seung this time. Jeong Ji Seung understands it is due to space constraints. Let them fist bump before starting. To successfully avenge Daeho. As the truck door slowly closes, Manager Mi also issues a command. 2 cars follow, and 1 truck begins the escort. Jeong Ji Seung feels vibrations beneath his feet. He understands the ritual has begun. The support shaman's incantation comes through the earphones. As the last word falls, the band also begins the rock music. Jeong Ji Seung immediately begins the blade dance. Manager Mi is observing through surveillance. Although theoretically feasible, she actually has no certainty in her heart. She can only pray that Jeong Ji Seung will make it possible with his talent. At the same time, a blood-red gate also appears before the white porcelain dragon. What exactly can be summoned from the endless darkness within the gate? Seeing this, Beacom decides to fully commit herself. Her pupils suddenly widen. Through her eyes, she can control the white porcelain dragon and merge her consciousness with it. So, what exactly will Jeong Ji Seung produce? Suddenly, a black sphere flies out from within the gate. Beacom is also stunned when she sees it. Is this all there is? This makes her burst out laughing. The death curse of the great sudden death shaman is merely a soap bubble. Solgit reminds her from the side. Do not let down your guard. Do you want to disrupt the flow of divine power? If they are truly performing the ritual outside the island, then we currently occupy the high ground. An unremarkable appearance does not mean weak power. The black sphere suddenly transforms. Immediately, a black spike flies toward the white porcelain dragon. However, the effect appears questionable. Seeing this, Beacom loses her composure even more. I never expected my senior to suffer such humiliation. This makes Solgit feel somewhat ashamed and angry. Is the task merely to stop the death curse? It seems really simple. Let us finish this quickly now. Before she finishes speaking, the white porcelain dragon charges fiercely toward the black sphere. However, the black sphere instantly dodges. This makes Beacom think, could it be an agility type? She attacks 3 times in succession, all missing. Moving the large white porcelain dragon consumes relatively more divine power. She must change tactics. Immediately, Beacom has the white porcelain dragon coil up again to gather strength. Meanwhile, the distant black sphere transforms again, bursting into the shape of insects. Could it be the god of plague? However, this is not important. Beacom immediately instructs her assistant to bring chicken blood. First, she soaks the dagger in chicken blood, then she swallows the dagger. What Beacom intends to do is enhance the completeness of the ritual, because the white porcelain dragon is a spiritual creature, specifically designed to balance defense. The best method is to increase the divine power supplied to the white porcelain dragon. At the same time, Jeong Ji Seung's death curse transforms again. Finally, it splits into the form of a salamander. However, the size difference is still very large. Solgit also notices something is wrong with Beacom. He suddenly looks up. He can see the difference in divine power. Jeong Ji Seung's death curse has not only changed in appearance, its divine power itself is also growing. Generally speaking, divine power is like a type of spiritual power. The transmission speed is linked to distance. Such immense divine power cannot be transmitted from outside the island to inside so quickly. Selga momentarily cannot believe his own conjecture. However, he still feels he must verify it. Rather than providing an impossible reason, he should consider how they made this possible. Immediately, he calls Ma Yong-song. The sudden death shaman seems to be entering the island while the ritual is being performed. As long as they can find them, it will bring victory to Hong. Ma Yong-sung immediately orders, all personnel be assigned to Solgit. Now conduct the search centered around Mapo Bridge. Aside from the sudden death shaman, it does not matter if others are killed. Let them taste the ruthlessness of the Great Empire faction. The pursuers quickly arrive at Mapo Bridge. They have already discovered the truck performing the ritual. They have already set up defenses ahead. There are also pursuers behind. Chilgun suggests getting out first to clear a batch. However, Manager Kim says there's no need. How could sedans possibly stop a truck? Then he accelerates the truck and rams forward. This scene completely shatters the thugs' understanding. To save their lives, they have no choice but to dodge. They successfully break through the first line of defense. Solgit never expected they would fail to stop them. Now change strategy. Directly use violent methods to board the truck. The thug is about to jump onto the truck. The car behind gives him a push. As expected, he also falls unconscious on the spot. Some thugs have already climbed onto the truck. However, Manager Kim appears exceptionally calm. Immediately, he splashes a cup of hot tea toward the thug. The thug immediately experiences free fall. Beacom also begins to struggle. Jeong Ji Seung's death curse keeps transforming, and its power grows stronger and stronger. Now it not only stops evading, but even begins counterattacking. If the death curse transforms a few more times, it will be over. On Jeong Ji Seung's side, he continues to accelerate the rhythm. He can feel it is almost complete. Just a little more. So far, everything is going smoothly. Suddenly, a truck flashes out ahead. Seeing this, Manager Kim quickly jerks the steering wheel. On Jeong Ji Seung's side, he is about to complete it, but he suddenly loses balance. The truck tilts due to the sharp turn. Finally, it rolls over. The scene is a total mess. Manager Kim loses consciousness on the spot. Jeong Ji Seung's ankle and hand are severely fractured. Shelgan also falls and cannot get up. Learning of the accident, Manager Mi panics for a moment. She immediately orders them to check on the shaman's condition first. Surprisingly, Kyogun actually stands up. The current situation is dire. Hon's people will likely swarm in immediately. Kyogun then approaches the truck door. He steps forward to pull. The sturdy truck door is forcibly torn off by him. Jeong Ji Seung's current condition is very poor. Worse still, Hon's personnel have arrived. Jeong Ji Seung's death curse is also gradually dissipating. This is the worst situation. Everything seems to be settled. However, Jeong Ji Seung regains consciousness at this moment, looking at the fighting outside, and his own fractured fingers. He simply cannot muster any strength. It feels like he has been dreaming. He received attention he had never received before. He lived in a place he had never lived before. He tried eating things he had never eaten. He was given what he could not give himself. He also had a group of precious companions. Jeong Ji Seung is unwilling to wake up like this. He still wants to continue this dream, but now he does not know what to do. However, another Jeong Ji Seung says, do what you can. As if he has thought of something, he slowly gets up. The only thing he can do now is continue the ritual. He uses all his strength to lift the altar table. Seeing this, everyone stops fighting. Does this severely injured guy want to continue the ritual? Immediately, Jeong Ji Seung raises his ritual tool. He will use all his strength to perform the blade dance one more time. Blood seeps from his scalp, obscuring his vision. The pain from his twisted fingers and ankle crawls up his nerves. The headache caused by the concussion, the debris scattered across the truck, the brawl between thugs and bodyguards, the incomprehension in their eyes. A young man is conducting a ritual. This is the only thing he can do right now. Salga beside him can hardly breathe. As someone who can sense divine power, he can feel the gap between himself and Jeong Ji Seung. It feels as if he is sinking into the deep sea. However, Ma Young-sung's threats linger in his ears. This instantly brings him to his senses. This guy has reached a state of complete selflessness. If this continues, BKM will lose control. Necessary measures must be taken. All the thugs charge towards Jeong Ji Seung and his group. The numerical disadvantage becomes evident once again. In the end, only Chulgin remains. Salga pushes through the crowd. He looks exactly like a smug, triumphant, petty person. Chulgin mocks him as someone who cannot even pee properly yet talks so much. This infuriates Salgin so much that he immediately wants to send him to his death. Suddenly, a van rushes in front of them, interrupting his action. Quite a few people get out of the vehicle. These people are all brought by Dae-ho, who should be lying in the hospital. He came today to pay for his daughter's meal. He immediately equips himself again. All the bodyguards charge toward the thugs. At the same time, Manager Kim struggles to get up. He connects his phone to the car system. Music instantly fills the scene. Jeong Ji Seung's ritual is almost complete. Subsequently, a powerful dark energy erupts from around his body. The dark energy quickly reaches the white porcelain dragon. It attacks toward its abdomen. The white porcelain dragon's abdomen immediately begins to swell. Generally speaking, pouring power into a devoured deity is meaningless. However, in the next second, the white porcelain dragon begins to lose control. Immediately, a crow flies out from its mouth. Finally, it transforms into a tiger. The tiger then pounces toward the white porcelain dragon. This scene completely shatters Beakom's understanding as a shaman. The deity summoned by Jeong Ji Seung is called Black Ghost, a spirit that feeds on divine power and fear, growing gradually. Just with Jeong Ji Seung's divine power alone, it has reached its current size. The white porcelain dragon and Black Ghost instantly engage in combat. Beakom directly loses the will to resist. It feels as if she is facing a wall. This death curse can even speak human words. Suddenly, its head begins to twist. Finally, it forcibly tears its own head off. Then it transforms into a pool of black tide. In just an instant, it covers the entire area around the company. Hakim also discovers that her divine power is mysteriously beginning to disappear. A hand reaches out from the black tide. A giant figure rises from the ground. It is said that its existence was passed down by word of mouth in 8 provinces. However, there was no precise description of it. This may be because each person has a different object of fear in their heart. Suddenly, the giant's face begins to transform. The giant manifests into the object Beakom fears most, Chairman Ma Young-sung. In just an instant, she is engulfed by fear, along with the staff beside her. Has anyone said that fear is a spreading plague? Soon the target shifts to Solgit. This makes Solgit's body tremble involuntarily. Whitehair reports the battle situation beside him. However, he shows no reaction at all. It turns out he has fallen victim to it. Seeing this, Whitehair is instantly frozen in place. The usually superior shaman has actually become like this. Immediately, he collapses to the ground. Even though Whitehair does not understand sorcery, he can tell that. This is the phenomenon that occurs when a ritual succeeds. Besides, they have no additional personnel to deploy. Knowing defeat is certain, he calls off his subordinates. He flees the scene in disarray. This finally allows the two to breathe a sigh of relief. Dae-ho is injured again from this battle. However, he still tells Chilgun to check on Jeong Ji Seung first. Meanwhile, Jeong Ji Seung stands motionless in place. The ritual is completed at this moment. What follows is the finishing work. The giant grabs the white porcelain dragon with one hand, then pries open its mouth, finally tears it in half. The moment he sees the white porcelain dragon dissipate, Jeong Ji Seung finally collapses with relief. The effects of the curse begin the next morning, starting with a plunge in stock prices, then massive artificial sell-offs. Contracted buildings collapse. Negative news about large real estate projects. Corruption issues related to reconstruction. Most importantly, Ma Young-sung is urgently arrested. Besides that, internal personnel from Home Group continue to report violations. A series of problems leads Ma Young-sung to imprisonment. At the same time, Jeong Ji Seung wakes up in the hospital room. He turns his head and discovers Dae-ho is also there. His first concern is still for Dae-ho's physical condition. Dae-ho tells Jeong Ji Seung to move gently or the stitches will come loose. I heard you have been taking care of So-hee all this time and even avenged me. Thank you so much. Jeong Ji Seung says, if you want to thank me, let us work together long term. After all, finding a high-paying job is not easy. How could Dae-ho give up this job? Others also come to visit the two shortly after. Jeong Ji Seung anxiously asks Manager Mi how the outcome turned out. If the stock price did not drop significantly, Gold Cross would be in danger. Manager Mi does not speak, she just takes out her phone. Hone Construction stock has halted trading directly. Undoubtedly, it is a huge success. Hone stock dropped about 30% in one day. When trading resumes tomorrow, it will drop again. Another pleasant collaboration. Jeong Ji Seung finally relaxes. Thank goodness, this was truly dangerous. She and Jisong has done it once again. This time, it was entirely through his own power. Yura, he suddenly appears at this moment, breaking the atmosphere. She wants to know how much Gold Cross earned this time. Manager Mi jokes that you should not be curious about how much the company earned. Do you want to know if your pay will be reduced this time? Dae-ho states he does not care how much money he receives this time. The band also echoes an agreement. Finally, Urahi throws the question to Jeong Ji Seung. Jeong Ji Seung merely says he will probably handle it well. Urahi stamps her feet in frustration. The hospital room is instantly filled with a cheerful atmosphere. Soon it is time to share the results again. However, Justin has not prepared cash for this. Suddenly, he changes his tone. That is because there is too much money to withdraw all at once. Jeong Ji Seung is the first to ask exactly how much money there is. Justin does not speak. He just writes a string of numbers and hands it to Jeong Ji Seung. However, judging by this gesture, the amount is certainly massive. If this commission is to be settled immediately, the payment period extends to 5 years. Because of Jeong Ji Seung, Gold Cross not only survived from the cliff this time, but its position in the industry has even risen. However, Jeong Ji Seung humbly states it is not entirely his credit. I am happy that everything went smoothly. Justin now finally understands why Manager Mi particularly favors Jeong Ji Seung. He is not weak, just kind. So Justin has a proposal. In addition to this commission, we will also share Gold Cross's equity. Now you are no longer a shaman who performs rituals according to our instructions. You are a partner who grows together with us. At the same time, in the detention center on the other side, Salgid comes to visit according to instructions. Ma Young-sung suddenly asks him if he thinks that because he is in prison, he can rest easy. Salgid immediately defends himself in panic. Ma Young-sung says, you really lack awareness. Deal with everyone who reported violations and cooperated with the police investigation. Since I am still alive, I absolutely will not let them have peace. After working under me for so many years, they still do not know what they should do. Although you are not a traitor, you are also responsible for creating today's situation. Before answering, think about your family first. What you need to do is cast a death curse on Gold Cross's Justin and the sudden death shaman to kill them. Ma Yong-song wants to make those who took everything from him pay the price. Salgit states this is impossible. Shamans and Yoido must follow the rules and can only target companies, not individuals. Even if the rules are not followed, curses will be interfered with. Hearing this, Ma Yum-sung says seriously that if you do not do this, then I will kill you and your family. No exceptions. Either they die or your family dies. However, with Salgit's abilities, he is not sufficient to directly kill the opponent. Ma Yum-sung has already thought of this, so he has prepared a voodoo curse object, an item that enhances the power of death curses. Remember to do it unless you want to be buried together with your family.